I have this thing when I work with clients that I ask them about their two moment. And then somewhere around like 7 years old, that bigness becomes, oh, they're too much. I don't know that it's too much for them to own their
Oh,
bigness,
interesting.
often too much for the world. Either it happens on the playground,
Oh,
right? Or they're too talkative, or they're too creative.
hello and welcome to the Differentiation podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli, and today I am being joined by our very special guest, Tina Overbury. Now, Tina believes that we are living in what she calls the age of the artist. She sees art as an incredible bridge, a way for people to connect when they're too angry, too divided, or maybe just simply can't find the words. Tina fundamentally is a story coach. She works as an expressive arts therapist, helping people turn their life stories into something deeply meaningful. And she also describes herself as a book midwife because she coaches people to write legacy books or maybe remarkable keynotes during major life transitions. For Tina, it's not just about work. She's rooted in myth, mysticism, and always with a spirit of play, and likes to refer to her life's passion as a devotional practice. Tina, it is such a treat to have you today. Thank you and welcome.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Anytime there's an opportunity to dive into the land of story,
Oh,
I'm in. So thank you for having me.
yeah, this is going to be fun. Just hearing your story and what's influenced who you have become over the years. It's always fun to see, to go back into the threads. One of the things that really has struck me is that we both are helping people come to their authentic voice in different ways, but we're both essentially doing that. And I love the piece that I just really want to lean in today is where you bring art as a portal or an access point for that authentic self. How was it? Where did this love of art begin? Particularly as a healing mechanism or as an access
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that, everywhere we go, there we are. And
Mm,
everywhere we are, there we be, right? And
yeah.
I think that um, my whole life I've been larger than the rooms that I'm in.
Mm,
I have and I have this thing when I work with clients that I ask them about their two moment,
mm,
which is like somewhere like kind of between 0 and 7 years old. We're looked at as children like, oh, wow, she or he or they, they're so creative. They're so, they talk so much. Oh, they're so strong. They're so this. They're so this. And then somewhere around like 7 years old, that bigness becomes, oh,
uncomfortable.
yeah, they're too much.
It's too much for them to own their bigness. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know that it's too much for them to own their
Oh,
bigness,
interesting.
often too much for the world. Either it happens on the playground,
Oh,
right? Or they're too talkative, or they're too creative,
well said.
right? I think
Hmm.
the thing that used to make me crazy in my 20s, even though it's absolutely who I am, is
Yeah.
I used to hear, oh, you know that Tina, she's so arty, right? And I thought,
That is awesome. In your 20s, you were hearing
in
that.
my 20s, she's so
Mm,
arty. And it's like, oh, well, you know, Tina, she's so arty. I'm like, yeah, I'm also wickedly intelligent. I'm also like,
yeah.
I'm on it, man. Like, I show up. Like, and I felt like even though I am arty,
Mm,
whatever that means, it's like I got slotted into this one category
hmm.
instead of seeing that really art is the kaleidoscope of the expression of who you are.
Right. What do you think they were trying to say when they were saying you were too arty?
I think that they were trying to say, of course, in your 20s, it's all kinds of different things, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think in my 20s, it would have been, and even now,
Mm,
there's a bit of a, oh, she's one of those artistic people
mm,
that sees the world in a different way and, has more access to innovation or more access to um, life outside of
mm,
the box. and of course, how I interpreted this, and
Yeah.
there's a reason I'm here.
Yeah.
I interpreted this as, oh, there's Tina who can't really fit in in the world, can't
Yeah.
really fit in here, and may not be able to be relied on because she's an artist, and like all the things that really keep the engine of our lives moving, which comes with a lot of guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
That I felt like I was being told that I'm not someone who abides by the guardrails. And, there's a lot of truth in that. Um, but I bring it up because it's at that, like some pivotal moment in our lives, we decide we're either an artist or we're not.
Yeah.
And I just don't buy it. Like I'm an artist and I do have an I am. Like there's I self-identify as
Mm-hmm.
an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't self-identify as an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recognize
Yeah.
that that artist piece leads, but it's in every single one of us.
Right. It's so interesting. So, um, yeah, I had so much thinking that as you were sharing your story, you said everyone has their too moment, too much, too much of something. And then as you were sharing in your 20s, even reflecting on that time being too artsy, what that meant was access. I heard access to creativity, access to innovation, access to outside the box thinking, just very curious, which is in a sense what people are doing when they're labeling with your too, whatever it is, you're too much of, whatever it is. They're actually, what I'm hearing is they're highlighting a strength,
Mm.
which is,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't receive it that way, of course. We
Mm.
receive it differently, right? We
Yeah.
receive it as we're going outside the lines. It's making people uncomfortable. The guardrails are in place to keep everybody in harmony, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But often we're not receiving it. And it may not be even consciously delivered
Mm-hmm.
that way,
Mm-hmm.
although it's highlighting our gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, we've all had the too moment, too much of whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that fascinating. And so there were guardrails. So what happened how did you respond then to this too artsy
Right.
feedback and excuse me, being aware of guardrails? I'm curious about how did you deal with the guardrails? What
Mm-hmm.
happened next?
Mm. Great question. Again, I go back to everywhere you go, there you are, and everywhere there you are, there you be, and you can't not be who you are. And and I did come
Mhm.
into the world uh, a a lot. I came into the world with a lot of expression, and so they're really um, like there's nothing to be done with who you are. And so
Mm,
what I ended up doing, just to from practicality's sake,
mhm.
is I fell into theater school in my early 20s, which was a disaster
Oh,
for me, just a disaster. And it's interesting. I'm working on my book right now and my thesis around performance itself as an expressive arts therapy modality.
mm,
And so I'm interviewing incredible performers, and I talked to Wendy Gorling, who
mm.
is a local actress and mask and movement teacher here in BC. And she was one of my teachers like 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And when I say it was disastrous, I was, in those days, we knew 16 people got into the program and like 4 to 8 would graduate.
Yeah.
And I was one of the ones that was told, I don't think this is for you.
Mm,
And I was saying to her after this beautiful conversation, 30 years later,
yeah.
because it took a good decade to heal the little bits of me that came out of that program so brokenhearted. And then another 20 years later to really go, wait a minute. No, no, no. This is part of who I am. And I said to her, though, that I went into that program and I was an exposed wire. I was
What
like,
do you mean by that metaphor?
I mean, like we all, like, based on the different traumas I'd experienced pre 20, my mom died when I was 8. There was a number of broken family things and lots of layers. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because when I look at my childhood, I see every single person in my house like really just trying to survive. And in that, a lot of harm can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I show up at school at 22, and this expressive human with lots of access to my emotional life, lots of access to
Mm-hmm.
joy and play, and but lots of pain in there. And I really, this instrument was not ready. I was a I was an exposed wire. It wasn't just a live wire. I was an exposed wire. And so it was the wrong fit for me at that time. And yet, everywhere you go, there you are. So I finished that program when I left that program, I should say in whenever it was 93 or something like that. I went, well, where does this art want to live that feels safe to me?
Those are a lot of wise questions to be asking at a young age. Where does this art want to live? That's
Mm-hmm.
safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think I thought about that before. But yeah, yeah.
Recognizing yourself as a vessel of expression. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I don't even know that I would have had the words at that
Mm.
time, but there was and is like this internal force inside of me around creativity, and I'm either on the wave, right? Or I'm either like I'm on the train that's
Mm.
left the station already, or I'm trying to hold back the train that's trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so get on the train.
Get on the train. Well, I'm curious about most of us will relate to that metaphor of getting on the train. We're
Yeah.
ready to run and we're ready to go. And then there are times when we're holding back the train and saying, no, not right now. We're more tentative. What circumstances are present for you with the wisdom that you have today that is alerting you that it's time to hold back the train? Or is there something else that I'm missing here that you'd like to share?
Mm, that's a great question. Hmm. Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is remembering that we have choice.
Mm.
I have this story pops up. Must have been a good 10 years ago now. And I got out of my car. I was going to the school to pick up my youngest, who was in elementary school at that time. And I was having a particularly massive day, just all the things, in the great intersection of life. And I got out of my car, and there was another mom that was in the parking lot, and she just could see on me
Mhm.
what I was like, that I was a bit of I'm an explosion waiting to happen, right?
Mhm.
And she asked me, is it Cedar? And I'm like, as my youngest, I'm like, no. And
Ah.
she names my other two kids, and I'm like, no, no. She said, oh, is it you? And yeah. And so she gives me a
Mm.
hug, and then she says, you can like tell the universe that you're just a mere human, and you can only take so much.
Mm.
Whew. And it really hit me, really struck me that in that moment it was, oh, I have agency. I have agency in what I expose myself to. I have agency in what I choose to take on in my day. And I
Mhm.
also have agency in how I want to play with all the different um, mm, stories that are present in my day, or energies or impulses in my day. And to like think I could actually say to the universe, okay, I'm just a human here. I can only take so much. Can we slow
Right.
it down a little bit? Was like this kind of kind of outrageous, but also just a beautiful example.
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear that. The nuance that's coming up for me here, I think, is interesting. We often talk about agency and we talk about our being in a position of choice and being able to choose how we respond. And typically, when that theme comes up, it's typically in response to external forces, external circumstances, or external experiences, or external conversations, if you will, that are, things that are coming to us. What I'm noticing here is that you're noticing what is being presented to you through your body and choosing and remembering that you're in a position of choice and you have agency about how to respond to that too.
Yeah, it's a great thread to pull on because about 10, I guess it was 9 or 10 years ago now, I had tonsil cancer.
Ooh,
Yeah, and I
that,
remember, like, yeah,
wow.
throat cancer.
Mm,
And I remember I had just the year before, like leading up to it, I'd reached out to a dear friend of mine who works in a holistic food, relationship to food
mm-hmm,
and such. And I said to her, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I need your help. And we did a little, what are all the things that you do, write down all the things you're eating, etc., that kind of stuff. And I remember saying to her, "Oh, I live in a body." And she says, "Yeah, Overbury, you live in a body." I'm like, "Oh, I live in a body. I live in a body." Like, it took me so long. It took my to my mid 40s to realize, oh, I might have all the energy and inspiration, coursing through me in a day, but I live in a body. And it
wow.
was actually cancer that taught me to listen to
Wow.
not just to the capacity, that what
Mm-hmm,
my body can hold, but also how do I want to live in this body? How do I want to be in this
mm-hmm.
body and in this day and, all the things we deal with in our life? How do I want to be in this body through that?
So was that the pivotal moment when art became a healing mechanism for you, or a healing, um, it's not the right word, mechanism, but healing
Like
tool?
a avenue.
Yeah, thank you, pathway for you. Or was there something prior to
Yeah,
that?
more. There is always
Aw. So it's interesting because we spoke about healing simply just from at the beginning when we're if we're too much. um, Healing just by accepting that strength
more.
and healing, noticing that it's okay to be too much of something because that is our gift in its fullness. There's some healing around that and just acceptance, and that's low level healing. And at the same time, for some, it's much greater. And then we talk about an extreme here where in your body with a true illness that was talking to you.
Mhm.
What happened in the earlier years that gave you some awareness around art as that pathway?
It started when I came out of theater school. And so,
Mm,
what actually prompted the, I think, the awareness that I was not quite ready or right
mm,
at that time for that work was I was in a movement class and we were doing what's called authentic movement, and where one person is the witness and the other person is the mover.
okay.
And the mover has their eyes closed and the witness doesn't know what they're witnessing. They're literally just watching.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And I was moving, and I happened to be paired up with like the artist, like the visual artist who draws, in the room,
Okay.
which just, as the universe would have it.
Yeah.
And I was moving with my eyes closed. So it's a very internal experience. And I started to have, it was like my first therapy, what do I call it? Started to have flashbacks that were like traumatic
Wow.
and in the space. And that was like the beginning of my therapeutic journey really was that
Mm,
moment.
wow.
I didn't know that then, but so I had these flashbacks and I was in a panic.
Mm,
It's only about a 3-minute movement, I believe. I don't remember now, it was so long ago, but it felt like an eternity. But what I know of the work, there's no way they left us in a song longer than 3 minutes because it's quite a deep journey. And I came out and I was quite, agitated. And I went over to my pal, Jonathan, who had filled this piece of paper with all of these really scary pictures.
Oh, wow. I've just got goosebumps.
And
Oh
I
my
was like,
goodness.
how did you know? Like he had little, a little girl under glass, like all kinds of just things. Not that that happened to me, but like
Yeah.
metaphorically,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh my
and
goodness.
like that was the beginning of seeing that there's a communicative place between us that we don't
Mm.
spend time talking about because you can't touch it.
Yeah. The
But there
bridge
is
for
some,
connection.
yeah,
Well, I would imagine that when you opened your eyes and saw that paper, you felt deeply seen.
yeah,
That must have been a phenomenal experience, I would imagine.
yeah. It changed everything. And I didn't, of course, at that time, I was 23. I didn't know that 30 years
Yeah.
later, I
Yeah.
would become an expressive arts therapist. But that really was the beginning.
Hmm.
And then I fell into writing, going back to the when I was asking myself, where does this art want to live safely?
Yeah.
And so I started to write poetry
Mm.
because the beautiful thing about poetry is that metaphor creates a safe distance between the person who is sharing whatever's going on and the story, because
Um,
sometimes the story can be too confronting, so metaphor gives us space. And then those poems became a play, and then I wrote a one woman musical. And so each of these pieces were um, pieces that where I was taking on a part of me that I was self identifying with. Like the second piece I wrote was called I Think You'd Better Sit Down, the one woman musical. And it was actually my way of grieving the loss of both of my parents
mhm.
for 16.
Mm.
And like, where does that go? Did I have a
Yeah.
therapist then? Did I? I don't, oh, I must have. Yeah, I would have had a therapist then. That would have been my late 20s. And what I really offer your listeners to consider, it's funny, I was actually talking about it last night. Actually, I belong to a group that gathers every 2 weeks to be
Mm.
in sort of practice together. And I was talking about how the times in my life where I've had stories that I've self identified with, and they're painful stories. And and I and I'm kind of in one now. I can like, oh, there must be another piece coming.
Are these, when you say I've had stories that I self are these your own stories or stories that were presented to you?
These would be my own stories. So using I Think You'd Better Sit Down as an example,
Okay.
it
Hmm.
was this moment in my late 20s when I was like, oh my gosh, every time someone asks you about who you are, at some point you're talking about how both your parents died. And I was like,
Oh,
do you really want your whole life to be identified by that story?
right.
I was like, that happened. It hurt.
Would imagine.
But is it who you are?
Right.
And I was like, no, it's not. And I could
Mm.
feel like, and I do recognize this with people who come into expressive arts therapy or any therapeutic journey, is that we walk into the room carrying whatever the story is that brought
Hmm.
us into the room. And then there's work to be done to release that story, not because it, not because it did happen, but we get to like take this story that's present and put it on the library, put it on the library shelf. And that's part of the journey, I think, for me as an
Hmm.
artist, is to wake up the expressive arts therapist that I am. There was a lot of my own
Hmm.
healing through art that happened
Hmm.
first.
Well, that's, I've said it before and heard it countless times. Your pain is your purpose.
Mm.
Mm. When we have an experience like that, where you were obviously a very expressive soul, a spirit with a lot of energetic expression waiting to come out. And I would imagine that that kind of force is hard to, as a young person, but as any person who's unfamiliar with the energy force, the life force that's inside of you, the expressive force that wants to come out, I would imagine that that would be incredibly challenging. Not
Mm-hmm.
know what to do with it, not know how to be with it.
Yes. And I want to add, like, I have a client right now who's finishing her book, Carrie Lockhart. So I can totally say
Oh,
that here. The book is, I'm not going to tell you the name of it in case the name title changes,
yeah.
but she is a live wire, high achieving corporate um, accountant. Not, she's not an accountant, but she finance person, works in
Mm-hmm.
finance.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to name that while my big energy really showed up in art, her energy shows up really big in her ability to like get stuff done and right and to be the
Yep.
CFO, to be the
Yep.
CFO and and I went all through her book, which again is coming out shortly. There's a lot of this the sameness of the two-ness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
yet in the corporate world or like non-artist world, it becomes commodified and it becomes the thing that the bar keeps getting higher
Mm-hmm.
because you are a high energy big producer, and it becomes, well, now do more, now do this. And I notice that it really
Mm.
doesn't matter what slice of the pie you came into the world as. Like learning how to be with our bigness in
Yeah.
whatever category that
Love that.
is
Yeah.
yeah.
It's, well, I think that's what most of us face. We have, we have a version of too much,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And when that is um, um, kept contained,
Mm,
it's interesting. You said sometimes you talked about harm earlier. I don't remember where I wrote it down. Trying to survive. So I just want to come to that. Trying to survive and harm can happen, you
mm,
said.
mhm,
The interesting thing is when we're trying to contain the too much
mm,
with the guardrails, that is a form of trying to survive.
mm,
And often what we see is the force, our too muchness, whatever it is, leaks out.
mhm,
And it tends to leak out in unguarded, unskillful ways because it is accidentally released, not intentionally released, but the force becomes too much and it can't be contained and it can cause harm. Which
mhm,
of course then it gets, I've seen this, I'm sure you have, that fullness of ourselves gets attributed to harm because it's been released in um, it's been released without our permission, perhaps, or without
mm.
our bringing its fullness. It's kind of leaking out,
Yeah, I
right?
think the word that comes to mind for me is without embodiment.
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
So the bigness,
yeah.
whatever it
Comes
is
out in parts.
comes out in parts because who we are is who we are.
Yeah. And I think you said, to your point, I know in my work, when I see someone trying to survive,
Mm.
it is almost always because they're holding back. Their too muchness, whatever that is. They're
Wow,
trying
that's fascinating to me.
they're trying to contain things that they're afraid to express, things
Right.
that they don't want to be seen for that, don't want to be known for that. It's too much of whatever it is. And that's not always articulated that way, but that's been my experience as well, is it's forcing them to stay inside. And the
Mm,
breakthroughs happen when they allow for it to be expressed and
mm,
fully embodied.
mhm. There's a word I use a lot, um, which is entrusted,
Mm,
that something has been entrusted to you.
mm,
And I think in this conversation, if we were to radically trust the story that's emerging between us right now, it is the story of too much, or the story of muchness,
mm-hmm.
of bigness. And I really appreciate what you said there but often it's the Tina language, the rigidity or the holding back
Hmm.
that is the obstacle,
Hmm.
between them and their liberation almost,
Hmm.
and the success, I would guess,
Absolutely.
that they're after while they're working with you.
That's where breakthroughs happen. Because in a way, it's not at all the same. And yet it's a healing. It's allowing a fullness to be expressed, right? And so in whether it's through your work of pathways to healing and different getting there, feeling okay or fully expressing through art, or my way, as I like to say, your craft is your art,
Mhm.
even in corporate, and differentiation is the too muchness
Yeah.
that you have not yet allowed to
Mm.
be.
Mhm.
So there's a piece there that, that you're bang on in that young person's life. We see it all the time. There's a time in our life where we're told it's too much, whatever that happens. And there's, lots of us have more than those experiences of too much of lots of things in some cases, right? But
Yes.
interestingly, it's the world telling you that that's your gift.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? And
Yeah.
yet we receive it, and it's often communicated as, it's too much because it's outside the norm or it's something that you're not comfortable with, what have you. So I'm fascinated by this conversation.
Mm. And I
Similar
have
work.
another belief that I just, for my own life, and I offer to
Yeah.
anyone listening, is that I truly do believe that your whole life
Mm.
is like every happening that happens to you in your life is leading you closer to who you are entrusted to be.
Hmm.
Even the hard things, like, and I said this to my pal Wendy, who was my teacher, when I said to her, as hard as that was, and as long as it took me to come
Hmm.
back to who I am in that
Hmm.
identity as an actor, oh my gosh, it's so much richer for me now.
Right.
And it's brought me closer to the expressive arts therapist that I
Yeah.
am now because I've walked that journey,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I think the
Right.
hard work is the vulnerability to continue walking.
Yeah. And and as you said, the hard work, when we continue walking, there's so much learning and growth and empathy and self-awareness. There's so much that comes from that journey that actually makes us even more valuable, even more of ourselves to contribute, more richness, more depth, more goodness inside who we were as a little person, right?
Mm-hmm.
That little person needs to go through the journey in a way in order for that too muchness to have the depth that allows it to translate into
Mm.
the richness that it becomes as we mature.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I've raised three teenage sons. And what I love about teenagers, and I love working with teenagers too, as an expressive arts therapist, is that teenagers, like, they have a truth. They have like a truth scent. They can like sniff out truth. Like, wait a minute, right? So they can like, they're so good at naming what's true and
Yeah.
calling people out, but they have no wisdom yet.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing you say in this is that our experience is, of course, give our muchness
Hmm.
wisdom.
Hmm.
I really like that. Like, there's all the colors on the palette,
Yeah.
based on our life experience. Yeah, it's beautiful.
What's coming up for you? I see something more happening
As
there.
I'm looking up, I do that a
Yeah.
lot when something's arriving. Hmm. Oh yes, it was around. It was around being seen,
Mm.
and it was around wisdom of our experiences and what you opened with, which was art, like what I would call the age of the artist, and in these divisive times, or we can look at them as divisive times. And I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just, there's lots of ways to look at things. Um, our experiences can also bring us into our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I preface that with, like, I really want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that going through hardship is what brings us closer together,
Mm-hmm.
or that we should all sign up for a life of hardship. Like, not
Well,
at all.
that sounds like a great idea.
Right?
Like, oh yeah, let's go do that.
Like, honestly, sometimes I'm all for positive
Oh,
affirmation, but sometimes there's
yeah.
a bit of like, oh, we need to hold the space for what was really hard,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's where we process the
Yeah.
stuff. And when we, I think, continue on the walk with a soft heart, with our allegiance to having a soft heart through it,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to see the people across the aisle
Mm-hmm.
as people,
Mm-hmm.
and to find something in our humanity where we can put down our othering and just like figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Put down our othering.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in a way that's a lot to do with, as I was thinking about the pathway forward and the age of the artist she referenced. I was thinking about how when um, when we are stoic, whether we're because we're hiding or processing trauma, healing, not showing our vulnerabilities, right? As a person, a human, if you will, in our personal lives or in a corporate setting, when we've been trained to be robotic and do things the way they've been done and follow the rules and, do things according to the formula to reach success, if you will. There's that, what I'm noticing in all of this is no matter the case, when we are stoic or robotic or holding back, right? We're not expressing our artist.
Mm-hmm.
We're not expressing our most creative self, our greatest life force, which is the fullness of our expression. And in my work, what I see so often is it's unsafe to be vulnerable. It's unsafe to self-express. This could cost money. It could cost clients. It could cost reputation. It can cost any number of things in the corporate world. And yet, I have countless examples of people who have chosen to bring more of their creative self, what I like to call their creative mastery, to their craft
Mm-hmm.
in their corporate expertise, to bring that creativity to that craft where it opens them up to whole new horizons of potential and opportunity. But the resistance is fierce.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. Where do you see that with your work, where the resistance is fierce?
Mm. Wow, that's a great question. Where the resistance is fierce. The first thing that pops up for me is because at least half of my client base are either new authors or
Mm-hmm.
returning authors. And when an author certainly the people who work with me, when an author sits down to write a book, it is, there's usually, well, I always say there's three layers going
Mm-hmm.
on in any book. There is the journey, like kind of like a sandwich. So
Mm-hmm.
the middle of the sandwich is the thing that's happening. Here's the
Okay.
story.
Okay.
We're going from point A to point B. And usually the authors that work with me are writing something huge that happened. But most recently, Corey McAuliffe's book, 23 Dates with My Dead Dad,
Mm-hmm.
is a journey of exactly what it's called. It is a grief story. And so that's the happening. That's the middle
Mm-hmm.
of the book. Then how does that relate to the world?
Right.
What are we all lying in bed at night thinking about around that? And then there's the third layer, which is, why is the author here?
Mm.
Why are they going to sit down and actually do this thing? And most authors, myself included, you don't know till you're actually three-quarters the way through the book why this story knocked on
Yeah.
your heart and said, write me now. And so the fierceness
Mm-hmm.
that I notice is authors, one, they want to protect the reader from the hardship that they went through.
Mm.
And so they write around it instead of
Instead of going right through it.
going right
Mm-hmm.
through it. And then the other
Mm.
fierceness that comes up, and myself included, is that we want to be smarter than the story. And so when we get to that point where what I call the unanswerable question pops up, which is really, what brought you to writing this book? We want to outthink it. We want to logic our way through it. We want to add it up nicely instead of actually the work that we know that is art, which is unzipping and allowing. And it might be muchness that comes through. It might be, dreams. It might be the truth of something really painful.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that's why they're here. And then to get to the other side of that is really, oh, it's just exquisite to watch when that happens.
I'm hearing parts of Joseph Campbell's work with The Hero's Journey. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
For sure.
And being in the cave with all the dragons and demons in the darkness and the blackest of black, thinking there's no way out.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You also remind you said going, we want to go around it, we want to avoid it, we want to outthink it, we want to have the answers.
Yeah.
Skip the pain, in other words.
Yeah.
We want to
And but
skip the pain.
and to your teaching, like you offer your medicine you offered at the beginning of this, like that pain is often our gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that pain is a gift. I mean that pain is there is beauty in
Yeah.
our humanity, in our tenderness. And in
Mm-hmm.
that tenderness, there's the gift.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because as you've already seen in your work, the art that comes forward is the result of pain.
Mm.
And they're turning that into a gift, perhaps healing forward for themselves and also a gift for others to help them avoid the same pain. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
curious?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Typically, it's often I don't want others to go through that, but the healing for them happens at the same time, is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm getting. As they're helping others avoid it, they're also healing themselves. The
Mm-hmm.
journey through that pain, and it's the result of pain where the craft is truly expressed,
Mm-hmm.
the art is truly expressed, and we see that in business as well. Founders,
Yeah. Yes.
their work is often where their work is limited,
Yeah.
where their work is feeling like it's got a glass ceiling, whether it's a founder or a professional. It's generally the result of having a resistance to allowing the gifts of the pain to be expressed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not
Because
ready for it.
founders are visionaries.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
all possibility. Like
Yeah.
all of
Well,
it.
you said the three layers. You said they how does the story relate to the world?
Yeah. Tell.
Then the middle of the sandwich, you said the thing that is happening right now is the heart of the story.
Yeah.
And then the third level is why are you doing this? And what I heard there through the business lens, if you will, what I heard was the how does this relate to the world is why is this valuable? Why is this valuable for others? And what is happening right now is what is the gift or the strength or the too muchness that is wanting to express? What is happening there? What wants to express that is being has been held back until now?
Mm.
And then the other piece is why. And the curious thing about my work is purpose is a curious thing, especially these days. I find that, I often say lots of companies have purposes, but they're devoid of spirit.
Mm.
They don't have enough why. Nobody is connected to a powerful why, because it's a strategic imperative as opposed to an emotionally charged pain point that is being solved, right? Being addressed. So when the why is truly meaningful for the founder, because there's something bigger inside it, there's more courage there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also much less sterile and much more rich with dimension because there's an experience that is trying to be brought forward, expressed, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna put a dare
Ooh.
out. I'm gonna put a dare out on the table. Um, I love the word meaningful,
Mm.
and it can also be misunderstood and
Mm-hmm.
become logical.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so my dare on the table is to let devotion into the room. And when we're
Yeah.
looking at our why,
Mm.
might your clients' whys be devotional, even if it's for themselves?
Absolutely. That's what
Doesn't have to be,
exactly
nobody even needs to
Eden
know.
needs to know. Exactly. I always say if my clients don't have a sparkle in their eye, we're not finished yet.
That's great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so when you say devotional,
Mhm.
what it's a I want to invite you to expand on that for us. What does that mean from your perspective?
Well, I'll tell you from my experience, and it'll be different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I have a rich, um, I have a rich. I don't even like the word spiritual life, but because it's such a, anyway. But I do. I have a rich spiritual life. I have a really rich energetic life. I live by the ocean because I feel closer to the earth. I feel
Mm-hmm.
closer to creation. And the bigness of the ocean matches the bigness inside of my body.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, devotional really does come down to what I've been gifted with is what I've been entrusted with. And if it's
Mm.
entrusted to me, it's mine to love and to give lovingly. For others, devotional might be like they love their person. It might be a love piece that's more of this earth and
Mm-hmm.
not as spiritually connected. It doesn't really matter. But for me, it's quite big, and it's not attached to a specific religion, in case
Right.
anyone's wondering. It really is. I'm here. I have this to give, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
give it lovingly, and I'm going to ensure that the path or the lane I've chosen to be in, is the lane that's been entrusted to me, because it just makes
Mm-hmm.
life so much easier when you're doing your
Right?
own work, you know.
When you're working in your too muchness, things tend to go well.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to give that to all of my clients. In fact, I should really put it above that painting up there. I'm going to live in my, like, right above
There you
there.
go.
That's fantastic.
Well, as you said, when what I have been gifted with is what I have been entrusted with to give generously and lovingly. Did I capture that well?
That's beautifully said. Yeah.
Yeah. And the key, the gifts that we all have is our too muchness, and to recognize that it is the craft and our magic that that we are entrusted with and meant to bring forward.
That's beautiful. Your
Oh,
clients are lucky
likewise.
to have you.
Oh, likewise, likewise. So, wow, I feel like we could talk forever. This is so interesting. Thank you for sharing so much. So, Tina, as we're winding up here, What has really stood out from this conversation that you might like to highlight for our listeners so that they're sure to anchor on something that is important for them to hear?
As I track back what's kind of shimmering, for
Lovely.
me,
Mm-hmm.
is this lean toward lean toward the edge of your muchness and get curious about that edge. Is it a capacity edge? Probably not, but it might be. And there's
Mm.
information there too. Um, and just get curious about what that edge is and what whispers are there for you in that edge, because you know who you are. You know who you are. And you will always whisper to yourself to come forward. So it's about the muchness edge and to, yeah, get comfortable standing there and listening to your own wisdom.
Beautiful wisdom right there. Thank you. Thank you. So, for those who would like to follow your journey and perhaps read some of your authors as they come forward, where might they be able to connect with you, Tina?
At tinaolife.com.
Tina O Life. Perfect.com. And is there any social channel where you're
Oh,
particularly active?
Instagram is a great place to find me for writing tips and playful bits and all of that.
Okay. What is
Um,
your handle there?
Tina Olife.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but mostly, the website, because I've always got nifty, fun things coming up if I'm performing or launching one of my clients' books or something. Mostly the
Aw.
website. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been an absolute joy and such a treat to have you join us today. Thank you for being generous with your wisdom with us.
My pleasure. And thank you for doing what you do. I feel like we're like
Wow.
bookends. It's quite lovely. Thank you.
More stories to share there, no doubt. And
Yes.
until next time, I wish you well and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, Tina. Bye for now.